The magnificent flagship of the Cathar Glory Empire sliced through the darkness of space as it entered the solar system, its massive hull gleaming under the distant light of the yellow star. Behind it, arranged in perfect formation that reflected 3 millennia of rigid military doctrine, followed 200 warships of various classes. Each vessel was a testament to Cathar engineering excellence, bristling with weaponry and adorned with the battle scars of 1,000 conquered worlds. On the command bridge of the flagship, Grand Marshal Forlag stood with his 4 arms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin reflecting the soft blue glow of the tactical displays. His posture was perfect, rigid, unyielding, confident, just as it had been during the 300 planetary conquests he had personally overseen during his illustrious career. Approach vector confirmed, Grand Marshal, reported Navigation Officer Krell. We will reach optimal broadcast range for the Earth system in 17 minutes. Forlag's upper mouth formed what passed for a smile in Cathar physiology. Excellent. Prepare the declaration of inevitable conquest hologram. Full ceremonial regalia for all bridge officers. Let the primitives witness the glory of Cathar military tradition before they bow before us. The intelligence reports on Earth had been clear, a backwater planet with primitive technology, internal divisions, and no unified defensive strategy. The Cathar Empire had been monitoring Earth for centuries, intercepting their primitive radio waves, analyzing their weapons capabilities. While the humans had advanced somewhat since the last comprehensive assessment, they were still centuries behind Cathar technology. An easy conquest, a footnote in the glorious history of the Cathar Empire. As the fleet settled into position just beyond the orbit of Mars, Forlag adjusted his ceremonial armor, ensuring each medal and insignia of honor was prominently displayed. Around him, his senior officers stood at attention, each representing the pinnacle of Cathar military excellence. Communications Officer, establish broadcast connection to the Primitives' global information network. Prepare to transmit on my mark. Connection established, Grand Marshal, broadcasting on all their primary communication frequencies. Forlag stepped onto the transmission platform, his imposing figure now projected to reception centers across Earth. He raised all 4 of his arms in the traditional gesture of dominance. People of Earth, he began, his voice deep and resonant, translated by the Empire's most sophisticated language processors. I am Grand Marshal Forlag of the Cathar Glory Empire, Supreme Commander of the 17th Conquest Fleet, Destroyer of the Arcturian Resistance, and bearer of the Imperial Mandate of Expansion. He paused for dramatic effect, just as he had done on countless worlds before. For 3,000 years, our glorious empire has brought order and submission to the chaotic sectors of this galaxy. No civilization has withstood our might. No resistance has prevailed against our superior technology and military discipline. Your planet has been designated for immediate conquest and integration into the Cathar domain. Forlag's eyes narrowed as he delivered the ultimatum that had brought emperors and presidents alike to their knees throughout the galaxy. You will surrender unconditionally within 1 planetary rotation or face complete annihilation. Resistance is not only futile, but illogical. The Cathar Empire is invincible, our dominance absolute. I await your capitulation. The transmission ended, and Forlag returned to his command position, satisfaction evident in his posture. Around him, the bridge crew maintained perfect discipline, though their eyes betrayed their anticipation of Earth's panic and inevitable surrender. Incoming response from Earth, Grand Marshal, announced the communications officer, surprise evident in his voice. It appears to be an individual communication rather than a governmental response. Forlag frowned. This was unusual, but not unprecedented. Perhaps the humans were so disorganized they hadn't established proper diplomatic protocols. On screen, he commanded. The central holographic display flickered to life, revealing a human male sitting at what appeared to be a cluttered desk. The human had dark hair, olive skin, and was in the middle of consuming some kind of food from a container. He wore no formal attire, merely a simple garment with some kind of insignia that the translation systems identified as Regional Communications Center, Section 7G. Hello, is this about the interstellar broadcast permissions again? The human asked, mouth still partially full. Because I already told the Centauri delegation last week that all applications need to go through the proper channels. We're backlogged until next quarter. Forlag stood frozen in shock. Around him, the bridge. Crew exchanged confused glances. Human. Forlag finally managed to speak. I am Grand Marshal Forlag of the... Yeah, I caught that part. The human interrupted, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. David Tran, Communications Department, 7G. Look, can you hold for just a second? I need to finish my pho before it gets cold. Without waiting for a response, the human turned his attention back to his food, using two thin sticks to lift strands of what appeared to be some kind of sustenance into his mouth. Forlag's scales flushed a deep purple, the Cthar equivalent of apoplectic rage. Human, do you not comprehend? I have declared war on your planet. I command the most fearsome conquest fleet in the galaxy. David looked up from his meal, slurping a noodle. War? Like actual war? Not a promotional campaign for a new space battle simulation game. He squinted at the screen. Your makeup and costume are really good, by the way. The forearm prosthetics look almost real. These are my actual arms. Forlak Hoaret. I am a harbinger of your planet's doom. David sighed deeply, putting down his food and checking something on another screen. Okay, look, I've got about 5 minutes left on my lunch break. If this is legitimate interplanetary communication, I should probably transfer you to someone higher up. Although, he checked his watch, most of the executive team is in the weekly budget meeting right now. I demand to speak with your Supreme Leader immediately. Forlak Tandat. Supreme Leader? David chuckled. We don't really have one of those. I can transfer you to Deputy Director Petrova at the Global Defense Coordination Agency. She handles most first contact protocols when they fall outside the standard parameters. Before Forlag could object, David pressed something out of view, and the screen went black momentarily. A cheerful melody began to play, accompanied by lyrics in what the translation system identified as a regional Earth dialect, extolling the virtues of something called coffee love and summer nights. On the Cthar command bridge, stunned silence reigned. 3,000 years of conquest, and never had they encountered such a bizarre response to their declaration of war. Grand Marshal, the chief intelligence officer, ventured carefully. Our translation systems may be malfunctioning. The humans' response patterns do not align with any known fear or capitulation indicators. Could they be employing some form of psychological warfare? Suggested the tactical officer. A feigned indifference to mask their terror. Forlag's mind raced through possibilities. Or perhaps their society is structured differently than our intelligence suggested. This may be some form of diplomatic screening process. Even to his own ears, the explanation sounded weak. Before further speculation could occur, the screen reactivated. A different human appeared, a female with short silver hair and sharp features. She wore a simple, dark uniform with minimal insignia, and was simultaneously looking at the communication screen and manipulating several holographic displays around her. This is Deputy Director Elena Petrova, Global Defense Coordination Agency, she stated in a crisp, efficient tone. I understand you've declared war on Earth. How may I help you today? Forlag struggled to maintain his composure. I am Grand Marshal Forlag of the Cthar Glory Empire. I command 200 warships armed with planet-destroying weaponry. Your civilization will submit or be obliterated. Petrova nodded absently while continuing to manipulate the displays around her. I see. And has your fleet filed the proper transit documentation for passage through solar system controlled space? Under Interstellar Navigation Code 45.6, all military vessels exceeding Class 3 destructive capability must submit flight plans at least 30 days in advance. Documentation. Forlagsputat. We are conquerors. We do not file. Paperwork. That's going to be problematic, Petrova replied, signing something on one of her screens. Environmental compliance is particularly strict these days. Your ships will need to undergo emissions testing for excess energy discharge before approaching Earth orbit. As Forlag struggled to form a response, Petrova continued, "Also, I'm not seeing your fleet in our recognition database. Are you registered with the Galactic Civilizations Exchange? We have treaties with most major spacefaring cultures within 50 light-years. The Cthar Empire signs no treaties. Forlag Tundat. We conquer. We dominate. Yes, I understand," Petrova interrupted, checking yet another screen. "But without proper documentation, I'm afraid I'll have to refer this to our Unregistered Visitor Protocols Division. They're quite backed up at the moment due to the annual Multi-Stellar Disaster Response Exercise Week. Perhaps we could schedule a preliminary meeting tomorrow afternoon, after the Intercontinental Bunker Evacuation Drill." Forlag turned to his tactical officer, his patience exhausted. "Weapons officer, target one of the uninhabited asteroids near Mars. Demonstrate our power with a low-yield energy blast." The weapons officer complied immediately, and a brilliant beam of energy streaked from the flagship toward a medium-sized asteroid. The blast should have shattered the space rock into thousands of fragments, a small taste of what awaited Earth should they continue this insulting behavior. But something unexpected happened. A small, previously undetected craft seemed to materialize from nowhere. With astonishing speed and precision, it intercepted the energy beam with some kind of diffusion field. The Cthar weapon's energy dispersed harmlessly into space. On screen, Petrova didn't even look up from her work. "Oh, the automated debris mitigation system just activated. Our sensors detected an unauthorized energy discharge that might have created dangerous space debris. We'll send you the invoice for hazardous object prevention services later." What was that craft?" Forlag demanded, genuine alarm creeping into his voice for the first time. Just a standard autonomous maintenance drone," Petrova replied casually. "Is that an ion purifier cannon model K5 or the K6 improved version you're using? We've heard the K6 tends to have cooling system malfunctions during sustained high-intensity operations." The bridge fell completely silent. The weapon specifications Petrova had just casually mentioned were supposed to be among the Cthar's most closely guarded military secrets. "How could you possibly know about the cooling system vulnerabilities?" the Cthar weapons officer whispered in horror. Petrova glanced up, as if suddenly realizing she might have said too much. "Oh, just general knowledge from technical exchanges. Listen, Grand Marshal Forlag, your timing is a bit inconvenient with our annual disaster preparedness exercises underway. Would you mind terribly if we scheduled a proper first contact protocol meeting tomorrow? Say 1,400 hours Earth Standard Time, after the subterranean evacuation drill." Forlag, his mind reeling, could only nod stiffly. "Excellent," Petrova said with a professional smile. "We'll send coordinates for a neutral meeting point. Oh, and please refrain from any further weapons demonstrations without proper permits. The paperwork is simply dreadful when the automated defenses activate." Petrova out. The screen went dark, leaving the Cthar command bridge in stunned silence. "Grand Marshal," the science officer finally spoke, his voice trembling slightly, "I recommend an immediate deep scan of the entire solar system." Forlag nodded grimly. "Proceed." For the next several hours, the Cthar flagship deployed its most sophisticated sensor arrays, probing every corner of the solar system with technologies designed to penetrate even the most advanced cloaking and camouflage systems. What they discovered sent waves of dread through the entire command staff. "Impossible," whispered the science officer as the results came in. "There are massive cloaked structures in orbit around multiple planets. Energy signatures orders of magnitude larger than our intelligence indicated, disguised as background cosmic radiation. Extensive infrastructure hidden beneath oceans and planetary crusts. And a defense network of... I've never seen anything like it." The tactical officer's analysis was equally disturbing. Some of these technologies appear to be hybrid designs, incorporating principles from multiple sources. There are elements here that don't match any known civilization's engineering approach. And, added the intelligence officer, her voice barely audible. "We've detected energy traces consistent with at least 3 non-human species having visited this system recently." Before Forlag could process these revelations, the communications officer announced, "Incoming transmission, Grand Marshal." A different Earth representative. The screen activated to reveal a distinguished human with dark skin and gray hair, wearing formal attire. Behind them stood several other figures. Petrova, the communications officer David Tran, now introduced as Crisis Communication Specialist, Star Level, a humanoid figure that was clearly an artificial intelligence construct, and a plant-like sentient being that the Cthar databases identified as belonging to a species thought to have gone extinct centuries ago. Grand Marshal Forlag. The new human spoke with quiet authority. "I am Minister Zhang of Earth's Interstellar Diplomatic Corps. I believe it's time we had a frank discussion." "You?" Forlag struggled to maintain his composure. "Your technology, your defenses, our intelligence reports indicated. We're exactly what we wanted them to indicate." Minister Zhang finished smoothly. "Earth has maintained a deliberate policy of technological understatement for centuries. It's a strategy that has served us well in a complex galactic neighborhood." David Tran stepped forward, now looking far more professional than during their first encounter. "Your approach to our system has been monitored since you left Cthar space 3 years ago. Your rather theatrical declaration of war triggered our standard assessment protocols for determining the seriousness of potential threats. You were testing us," Forlag realized, his inner membranes contracting with humiliation. "In a manner of speaking," Petrova acknowledged. "We find it's an efficient way to evaluate intentions and capabilities without unnecessary conflict." Minister Zhang continued, "The Cthar Empire is not the first to attempt conquest of Earth, Grand Marshal. Each encounter has added to our knowledge, our technology, and our resolve. But our empire has maintained peace for 3,000 years. Our military might is unquestioned throughout our domain." The plant-like being made a sound like rustling leaves, apparently its version of laughter. The AI translator spoke. "Your peace exists because you've been operating in a relatively quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the notice of the truly ancient powers. Your domain comprises less than 0.0001% of the galactic habitable systems." Forlag's world was collapsing around him. Everything the Cthar believed about their place in the cosmic hierarchy was being systematically demolished. Suddenly, alarms blared across the Cthar flagship. "Grand Marshal," cried the tactical officer, "our long-range sensors are detecting an energy surge from beyond the heliopause. Is Earth attacking?" Forlag demanded. "Negative," the officer replied, confusion evident. "The signature is unknown, massive, unlike anything in our databases." On screen, Minister Zhang and the Earth delegation exchanged glances. "You've detected it already," Zhang said. "Not a question, but a statement. Your sensor technology is better than we anticipated." "Detected what?" Forlag asked, dread settling into his core. "The real reason Earth maintains such extensive defenses," Petrova said quietly. "Not for minor incursions like yours, Grand Marshal, but for something far more dangerous. We call it the structural dissolution entity. It emerges from the dark space between galaxies on a predictable cycle. And that cycle is beginning again." The AI construct stepped forward. "This entity does not invade or conquer in terms you would understand. It unmakes reality at a fundamental level. Conventional matter-based civilizations like yours and ours are particularly vulnerable. Earth has survived previous cycles because we've dedicated ourselves to understanding and countering this threat," Minister Zhang explained. "The technologies and defenses you've detected around our system, they're not primarily designed for conventional warfare." Forlag struggled to process this information. "And you expect me to believe this convenient story about some mythical cosmic horror? This could be an elaborate deception." David Tran sighed and pressed something on his wrist device. Instantly, the main view screen of the Cthar flagship split to show a real-time feed from their own long-range sensors alongside what appear to be Earth's much more detailed scans of the same region of space. These are the entity's early manifestation signs, the plant being explained through its translator. Your own science officers can verify the readings. Review your historical deep space anomaly records from approximately 517 standard years ago. You detected something similar then, but dismissed it as instrumental error. Forlag turned to his science officer, who was already frantically searching through the archives. After several tense moments, the officer looked up, his scales pale with shock. It matches, Grand Marshal. There are references to similar anomalies in our deep space monitoring logs, occurring at regular intervals. Each instance was investigated but classified as sensor malfunction. Minister Zhang's expression was grave. We have a proposal, Grand Marshal. Earth is not interested in conflict with the Kthar Empire. What we are interested in is survival for all sentient life. What kind of proposal? Forlag asked cautiously. A cooperative arrangement, Petrova explained. Your fleet withdraws peacefully. You share all your long-range sensor data from the dark space regions. In exchange, Earth provides a limited technology package, defensive and sensor systems only, sufficient to help protect Kthar worlds from the coming threat. You would also need to acknowledge Earth's sovereignty and established buffer zones around our solar system, David added, and agree to join an early warning network comprised of multiple species. Forlag's secondary hearts pounded erratically as the full implications became clear. His options were stark: return to Kthar, space in disgrace, reporting a humiliating failure that would likely result in his execution, or accept this arrangement with these arrogant primitives who were not primitives, an arrangement that might actually save the Empire from a threat he was only beginning to comprehend. I will convey your proposal to the Supreme Council, Forlag finally said, his voice subdued. But I make no promises regarding their decision. That's all we ask, Minister Zhang replied with a slight bow. We will provide preliminary data on the entity to help inform your council's deliberations. The Earth delegation departed as unexpectedly as they had arrived, their small shuttle simply vanishing from the Kthar docking bay through what appeared to be some form of phase shift technology that bypassed conventional space. Oh, and by the way, David Tran's voice came through one final communication. Your superliminal communication system bears a striking interface resemblance to Xylosian design. They tend to be rather sensitive about being confused with others. With that parting comment, silence fell over the Kthar command bridge. The withdrawal of the Kthar fleet from the solar system was conducted with rigid military precision, though none of the usual conquest anthems were played and the traditional victory projections remained dark. The mood throughout the 200 ships was somber, confused, and tinged with shame, though also with a certain relief at having avoided destruction. In his private quarters, Grand Marshal Forlag labored over his report to the Supreme Council. How could he explain this unprecedented failure? How could he convince them of the greater threat without appearing to be manufacturing excuses? He decided to frame it as a strategic galactic-level reassessment rather than a military defeat. As the fleet moved beyond Neptune's orbit, Forlag reviewed the data package Earth had provided. The correlation with the Kthar's own long-range sensor readings was undeniable. The evidence pointed to exactly what Earth's representatives had described, a cyclical entity or phenomenon that operated according to principles beyond conventional physics, with the potential to unravel the atomic structure of entire star systems. And according to the timeline projections, the Kthar Empire lay directly in its predicted path. Meanwhile, at Earth's command center, Elena Petrova, David Tran, and other leaders watched the Kthar fleet's departure on massive holographic displays. That went better than expected, David commented, stretching his arms above his head. Do you think they'll accept the proposal? Self-preservation is a powerful motivator, Petrova replied, already reviewing data from other monitoring stations. Their science teams are already confirming our findings with their own observations. The evidence will be difficult for even their Supreme Council to ignore. And if they do ignore it? Asked an aide. Minister Zhang sighed. Then we implement Contingency Protocol Epsilon 9. The Cathar worlds would be included in our third priority evacuation planning. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, David said, frowning at his cold lunch container. They may be pompous and expansionist, but no species deserves what the entity brings. Update the defense grid protocols, Petrova instructed her team. Incorporate what we've learned about Cathar weapon systems. And schedule a complete review of our first contact simulation training. Some of our response times were slower than acceptable standards. There was no celebration, no congratulatory speeches. Just tired professionals moving on to the next task, the next challenge, the next potential extinction-level threat to be monitored, analyzed, and countered. As the Cathar fleet journeyed homeward through the void, Forlag found himself spending more time in the observation dome, staring at the stars with new eyes. The universe he had known, one where the Cathar Empire stood unchallenged and invincible, had been an illusion. The 3,000-year peace had been built on ignorance and blind spots, on operating in quiet corners of the galaxy where greater powers hadn't bothered to look. In his private log, encrypted with his personal genetic code, Forlag admitted truths he could never share publicly. We have been children playing at conquest in a very small corner of a playground, unaware of the true dangers beyond our limited perception. The humans could have destroyed us effortlessly. Instead, they offered knowledge and protection. Is this weakness on their part, or a wisdom that has eluded the Empire for millennia? The data from Earth continued to align with their own observations. The strange energy readings were intensifying at the exact coordinates and rate that the humans had predicted. Forlag had ordered their most advanced scientific minds to analyze every aspect of the information, searching for deception or manipulation, but they found none, only terrifying confirmation. Grand Marshal, his aide, interrupted his contemplation. We have received a priority communication from the Supreme Council. They request your immediate response to preliminary findings. Forlag stellt himself. This would be the true test, convincing the Council of a threat they had never imagined, proposing an alliance with a civilization they had intended to conquer. As he turned to leave the observation dome, a sensor technician rushed in, breathless. Grand Marshal, our long-range arrays just detected an anomalous energy signature at the edge of scanning range. Massive power, unknown configuration, appeared for 2.3 seconds, then vanished. Direction? Forlag asked, his membranes tightening. From the sector we're heading toward, sir. Directly in our return path. Forlag felt a cold sensation spread through his body. Perhaps Earth's warnings weren't just about some distant future threat. Perhaps the cycle was already further along than anyone had realized. Alert all ships, he commanded, his voice steady despite his inner turmoil. Prepare to transmit a full data package to Earth's Defense Coordination Center. Inform them. Inform them we may require that technology exchange sooner than anticipated. As the Cathar fleet continued its journey through the darkness, the stars seemed less benevolent to Forlag now. In the vast expanse between them, he imagined he could sense something watching, waiting, something ancient and patient that didn't recognize the boundaries of empires or the pride of conquerors. Something that rendered meaningless the Cathar's 3,000 years of peace through dominance. A peace that was definitely over.